All right, let's get into some of your emails for the week. If you want to send an email and maybe have it featured in the weekly email bag, you can email info@davidpakman.com. Please be aware, I can't believe I still have to make this admonishment. If you start emailing multiple times a day, and there are now like 30 or 40 people doing it, your emails are being auto-filtered into the trash. We just can't have this stuffed email box. It's not what it's for. We are not, some people are sending us just 30 news stories a day. It's not an appropriate use of the email box. You might as well stop. We're not seeing your emails. But for other people, info@davidpakman.com. If you're going to reasonably use that, we love hearing from you. Let's get right into this week's email bag. First email is from Jay Bear, who says, "Why do you avoid race and IQ? Are you afraid of the truth?" We've gotten emails like this before. Jay Bear writes, "You seem quite scared, David, of the truth. The link between race and IQ is as clear as day. Stefan Molyneux and Lauren Southern have discussed in length about this before, and they aren't racists. Jews actually have higher IQs than others, and you probably realize this, but you can't say it. Don't be so afraid of reporting the truth. Listen to Charles Murray, Dr. David Duke, and Stefan Molyneux." Every time I get one of these, I always have to do a two-part response. First of all, why are you so obsessed with this topic? With all of the things going on in the world, why would someone continually be fixated on this topic? But most importantly, it's not a subject that I've avoided. We have a long-form video, The Truth About Race and IQ. Go watch it, and that's all I have to say on the matter. Now, the problem is people see the video, and then they say, "Well, but David, I don't agree with your conclusions. You need to do another video." These folks won't be happy until I just agree with them. And that's a very different request that they're making. We've talked about it. It's not an interesting topic to me. We've said everything we want to say about it, and that's it. Kyle wrote in, Kyle from South Florida, about Chris Cuomo, and says, "In Chris Cuomo's defense, David, I was listening to your take yesterday on the situation regarding Chris Cuomo's suspension from CNN. I agree with you for the most part. Him using his connections to help his brother during a scandal is totally inappropriate and is absolutely a violation of journalistic integrity. However, I did not find it necessary to warrant a suspension. In Cuomo's defense, he is the most watched hour of CNN and is an influential voice on the left. Why should he be suspended when journalists on right-wing propaganda networks resume business as usual, making wildly false claims and peddling dangerous conspiracy theories? As a progressive, I'm getting tired of holding ourselves to a certain moral standard like journalistic integrity, while the right threw that out of the window a long time ago. I'm not saying we should ever stoop to their level, but I am saying we may want to reevaluate who and what we should be condemning people for. Chris Cuomo's suspension is unnecessary. Since this email, it actually became a firing. I disagree with this. This is like when Keith Olbermann violated policy by making some political donations when he was working at MSNBC, and was he suspended and then fired, or just fired? He was punished for it. A whole bunch of people said, "Look at Fox News. The entire network is politically biased people who are participating in fundraisers for candidates and doing all this stuff. So nothing should happen to Keith Olbermann." I'd reject that. Once we say we don't need to hold ourselves to sensible standards because they aren't doing it, I think in some sense we become as bad as them. Now, I've said before, there are cases where we just need to play the game. For example, gerrymandering. The way that the Republican Party has gerrymandered, manipulated congressional districts to their advantage is disgusting. It shouldn't be allowed, but it is. And the left has no choice but to do the same anytime they have the opportunity, until such time that we have a different way of drawing districts. But you're going to just keep losing if you don't do that. But you work to change the rules. Here, what Chris Cuomo did is completely inappropriate, and the punishment has to fit the actions, not, well, what does or what would Fox News do? So I think, Kyle, I appreciate the message. We just have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. But I think that Chris Cuomo's suspension was completely appropriate. Next email called fake news. You are correct, in fact, that Trump didn't invent the term fake news. Actually, it was one of Hitler's favorite terms. Of course, he said Lügenpresse. I've observed it on many Trump supporters, probably neo-Nazis. I froze the first time I heard it in our language in 2016 before the election. I believe I saw his ultimate intention then. Apparently, according to his first wife, he read Hitler. It's called My New Order, and that alone is a little chilling. So, yeah, our so-called patriot MAGA crowd somehow doesn't realize it's a fascist term used by an evil man who proved his evil 100 times over. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're not wrong. Even more recently, the term fake news within the United States had a particular meaning. And it was like, the National Enquirer, Hillary Clinton giving birth to an alien baby. That's what we meant by fake news. Donald Trump has just completely changed what it means into any reporting critical of me or things that I've done and said. And obviously that is a perversion of what fake news has always meant. Next is a tweet. This was a tweet I got. I pointed out, this is actually a bigger story. Back when it was Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump in 2016, there were some people on the left saying, the Supreme Court, I don't care about the Supreme Court. Hillary and Trump are the same. I don't care. I'm not voting, or I'm writing someone in, or whatever. Donald Trump got 3 Supreme Court picks. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And now, as a result of that, Roe v. Wade may be undone in the United States. We're not going to know until June. And so I tweeted, if Hillary had won, Roe v. Wade wouldn't be on the chopping block. Now, a few people wrote back and said things like, well, she said she would be open to compromise on Roe v. Wade. Listen, that's something she said. She wasn't going to put in 3 anti-abortion Supreme Court justices. Okay. A user on Twitter wrote back and said, if Hillary had won, we'd be in 2 wars. And that is just such a boring, tired narrative. It is the Hillary stuff. And we talked about this Monday in the context of Joe Biden dramatically scaling back the drone war. After, quite frankly, decades of pushing this neocon warmongering stuff, Trump came in and said, oh, the Iraq war was bad, even though he said it was good when he was interviewed by Howard Stern way back when. And said, I'm not going to get us into wars and Hillary will. And many Trumpists and Republicans fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Hillary Clinton was not going to get us into 2 wars. Is it possible that she would have engaged in some kind of military conflicts, airstrikes, whatever? Absolutely. Most presidents do. Trump did. Obama did. Bush, George, yes. But this entire Hillary was bloodthirsty and looking to start wars everywhere. It simply was not based in any evidence. And by the way, they've been saying the same thing about Joe Biden. We're not closer to any war under Joe Biden. If he starts one, we will talk about it, believe me. But it's just a made up and concocted narrative that a lot of people fell for. And if you actually ask them, what evidence do you have that Hillary wanted to start 2 wars? See what happens. See what they say to you. Okay, next email. This one comes to us, it's actually a Facebook message. You are a piece of S. Trump is the best president in my lifetime, 53 years. Trump had America independent on oil, not true. Unemployment at all-time low. Yes, unemployment was low. That's absolutely true. And unemployment is also really, really low under Joe Biden. They're not giving Joe Biden any credit for that. Future jog outlook, I guess they mean job outlook, highest ever, and China economy in shambles. That's not true. And of course, the tariffs on China were really damaging to American companies. And then after getting an automatic response saying that, I can't respond to these messages individually, the same person wrote back and said, drop dead liberal pukes. This is what we're up against, guys. Another Facebook message. Are you kidding me? Trump was the only president that put our country first and the American people first. If you like living in communist country, move out. I am not a communist. I'm not looking to live in a communist country. I'm not looking for the United States to become a communist country. The continued ignorance around what communism is plaguing us like a virus, for lack of a better term. Bernard wrote in. Bernard writes, David, I love your show. Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity on YouTube channel Sprouts goes into what is happening in America right now and the danger of America losing democracy. Hope this helps. I actually recently read a very good article on Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity. And the main point of that is stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than evil. And there's a number of different ways in which you can make that case. I am very sympathetic to that idea. And a part of what makes stupidity a more dangerous enemy than evil is that stupidity lends itself to manipulation in a very particular way that, as we saw, quite frankly, under Trump, lends itself to getting people to believe and support absurd things, not because they actually like them, but because they don't even understand them. They've been tricked. They've been bamboozled. And I think there's a really good, if you search Google for Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity, there's a Medium article that explains it in some pretty good detail that's worth reading. John wrote in and says, where did Trump's oratory skills come from? David, regardless of your or my feelings on his character or policies, you have to admit that Trump is a skilled public speaker. Although he has his malfunctions, United Sheish and Finding the Oranges, to name a few, he never ums or ers and can easily hold a crowd's attention for an extended time. My question is, where did these skills come from? I don't think he had any formal training or would have a chance to exercise them locked up in that tower of his. What do you think? Yeah, here's the thing, John. In a sense, you're right. Trump was able early on to generate interest. His speeches were kind of wacky and entertaining in a sense. His press briefings were certainly more lively than those that Joe Biden has done. But at the same time, a lot of times Trump's rally crowds were completely bored. Remember for a while when Trump would come out with papers with polling on them, and he would start reading polls and the crowd was totally checked out. Recently, he's done like hour and a half, 45-minute rallies a few months ago, and the crowd is totally tuned out. So I do agree that Trump has something that makes him entertaining to some in a superficial way, but he also often loses the crowd in a very immediate and kind of jarring way. So I don't know. Even myself, while, as you say, I don't like the guy's policy positions or anything else, I did find myself entertained by some of his events. But recently, the endless sort of like Castro type rallies where he's just going on and on and on about nothing, it's not really entertaining. And a lot of people start walking out. So I think it's a mix. Trump fundamentally is an entertainer. So it shouldn't shock us that he has some tools to entertain on a superficial level. And obviously, you and I agree, for the country, it's not a good thing at all. We have a great bonus show for you today. Sign up at joinpakman.com. You'll get instant access to the bonus show, as well as our commercial-free audio feeds and commercial-free video feeds for members only. Sign up at joinpakman.com. You can use the coupon code BETTER21 to get a discount.